Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm going to talk about the newest historical drama by Kathryn Bigelow, Detroit. So as you saw from our two previous reviews of Kathryn Bigelow films, she is not a stranger to doing very charged historical dramas, as you saw in Zero Dark 30 and you really see in Detroit. So I have to start by saying this movie is so intense. It's so gut-wrenchingly just powerful in the way that it's filmed and shot that it's almost uncomfortable to watch at times, in my opinion. So the film takes place during the civil unrest and the race riots that are happening in Detroit during 1967. And basically what happens in the movie is, towards the beginning of the movie, you see, all this stuff's happening and this civil unrest is happening, and you can tell these race issues between the police and African Americans in the community. And then what really starts the powder keg of what happens in the movie is there are some people staying at the Algiers Hotel, and the police that are outside of the hotel in that region think that they are being fired upon from the hotel. So they go inside and they hold people hostage, and it's really intense, and it's hard to watch. It's really visceral. So this movie has a pretty large cast, and they all do a phenomenal job. But basically who it revolves around is John Boyega's character, as well as Will Poulter's character. And also, there's also I don't know how to pronounce his name, I'm sure it's Algie Smith, his character. So while there's a huge supporting cast, and they all do a great job, I kind of just want to focus on those three characters, because I feel like they have the longest arcs, and they also have the most screen time compared to the other characters. So John Boyega's character, he is a security guard, and he sees what's happening, and he's there to protect a grocery store that's across the street from the Algiers Hotel. And he's an interesting character because he himself is an African American, and this movie sets up this whole race riot type divide that's happening. It's very, pertinent to what's happening today in some ways. And it's interesting seeing him as an African American interact with the police, because he has a very strong respect for the police in the beginning of this movie. And he himself is in law enforcement. He's a security guard. So that is an interesting thing in this movie, and you slowly see his character change throughout the course of the film. Now, Will Poulter, it's hard to say that he was good in this movie, while his performance was amazing. I thought it was the best performance in the film. He's a terrible person in the movie. I liken it almost to how Michael Fassbender is in 12 Years a Slave. While the performance is fantastic, it's hard to watch. It's cringy in his mannerisms and his speech, and just his actions are so terrible. He's this horrible, vile, racist character, and it's really strong. I mean, throughout the movie, he's repeatedly essentially torturing, and just beating these African Americans and saying these terrible things to them, and really psychologically breaking them down inside this hotel, when in reality, he is the one who's doing everything wrong, and they're doing nothing wrong, essentially. Now, Algie Smith's character, he also has a huge arc in the movie where he is a very innocent character, very charismatic and loving and very vibrant character. And then after what happens to him in the hotel, you see his character break down. It's a really good performance. He also sings a lot in the movie, and his musical aspects to his character kind of reflect who he has become. In the beginning of the movie, he's very, vibrant, singing, lively, happy, and then after the event, he's so somber, and he can't sing, and just that part of him is broken now. And towards the end of the movie, you see a revival of that, and I thought his performance was really excellent too. And that's the thing about this movie, is it shows all perspectives of this event. While it could have been very easy, and what I thought it was going to be is very, black and white, cops versus African Americans, and I thought that was going to be it. But Kathryn Bigelow does a good job of having each little segment of almost every viewpoint you can imagine in this movie. You have the African American character of John Boyega, who supports the police and is almost pro-police in the movie. You also have other characters that are very anti-police. You have white officers that are very helpful to the African Americans, and you have white officers that are terrible to them. So you get all sides of the story, while you still do get that conflict. You don't think that it's just all comes out in the wash at the end of the movie. There is a conflict. There is something wrong, fundamentally wrong with what was happening in the movie. And she did a good job of skating that line of not being too entirely political, too entirely one-sided. You do get all the aspects, and I think that is what makes the movie a little bit special for me. I thought it was going to be extremely political when I first saw the trailer. I thought it was going to be a very political movie, and while it is political in many ways, it isn't overly political and overly not preachy, overly just one side of the story. You do get all sides of the story, and while they do say at the end of the film that, you know, it's not entirely based on factual evidence, it's just a amalgamation of stories and eyewitness accounts and things like that, you do get a good picture of what's happening, and I think it does tell a very important story and a little piece of history that I personally never knew about. I didn't know about any of this stuff happening in Detroit. I never knew about what's happening in this hotel, and it's terrible. And one of the things about it that really drives home that feeling of just how terrible it is she throws in footage. Well, I'm not sure if it is actually footage from the event. It might have been, I'm not sure, but it kind of made you transported to it. Like, it felt real. It didn't feel like you're watching something that you know did happen. There's an event that happened, but it doesn't have that weight to it when you actually see the footage and you see it, or what they represent as the footage. It really makes it that much more real. And also the first 3/4 of this movie, the first 2 acts essentially, are really tension-filled. They're really violent and intense, and it almost has, like, when they're trapped in the hotel with these police officers, it has a almost horror movie aspect to it. The way it's filmed, it has this over the shot, very close to the characters, like over the shoulder, very close to the characters, and you feel like you're in the room, you're in this like trapped area with them, and for me, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. It's just gut punching over and over and over again, and you're watching these events unfold, and you feel terrible. You feel terrible for the characters. You feel terrible for the people that are in this event, and she just did an amazing job of capturing that emotion that you would feel if you were in their position. Overall, I think it is a masterfully made movie. I think it's really excellent. I think the acting is fantastic. It's very unsettling in probably a good way. Very intense and almost educational as well, because I don't think most people would know about this event. I didn't know about it. And it has a lot of things going for it that are really good, and then really, I don't even know how to explain this movie. It's very uncomfortable to watch, in my opinion. So, in the end, if I were to rate this movie, I would probably give it a 8.5 out of 10. It's masterfully made. It is an excellent film, execution-wise, character-wise, acting-wise. Just the setting, everything about it is very intense. It's a very good movie. The only thing that keeps it from being an excellent movie to me is, this is a little bit nitpicky, but it is a film, and I hate criticizing a film like this, but there are a lot of characters, a ton of characters, and while they really were well acted, you never spent enough time with every character to get a full idea of their personality, who they were. A couple characters you did, but there were some really interesting characters, particularly Anthony Mackie's character, and a couple others where I kind of would have liked to learn more about them specifically. And it kind of has, it's a little bloated when it comes to characters-wise, but it is a great film. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you saw Detroit, how did you feel about it? Did you think it was as good as I thought it was? Is it one of your favorite Kathryn Bigelow movies? Thanks for watching guys, and see you next time.